recording this for the sake of posterity. We are here. It is Thursday, and therefore it is Think and Link, pants optional. That's your choice. As far as what you do in that area, we have a large crowd with us today. So, and I guess I would think that that's due to the marvelous combo platter. We've got Allie Kaplan as my professional co-host, jumping in here from Twin Cities Business Magazine, which, all bias aside, is the best business magazine we have in the Twin Cities. It is absolutely spectacular. They have great columnists there. We also have Christine Ward, the founder of Patina stores here in Minneapolis, and she is, well, she's in the center of a significant controversy in there in Minneapolis, which we're not going to talk about, but she's also the curator of an amazing store that a lot of people here in the Twin Cities covet and shop a lot, and she's just reopened. And then, of course, we have our international superstar, Paco Underhill, author of Why We Buy, which is the book that if you're doing retail at all and you have not read that book, you're likely doing retail wrong because you haven't really understood what's going on behind the scenes. And one of my top 5 books in the world as far as what I've read. I don't even know his other books because I love that book so much, and I hope he's okay with that. I haven't asked that before. But first, a message from our sponsor. In order to keep this event free, we like to sponsor this as Capsule. We are a special projects agency here in Minneapolis. And if you're wondering what a special projects agency is, you can go to capsule.us, or you just think of the most challenging marketing, design, and brand problems in front of you and think of Capsule, or think of inserting Capsule into that conversation. And we put on this Think and Link event because we are a curious crew. We like to learn about different industries, different perspectives on the world. We are curious across all different categories. And so we do this, we invite guests and people we've met over the years to come have a conversation and listen and learn. And then record them and put them out into the world. So we love to see video. So video on, audio off, because interruptions are challenging to deal with that way. But you have a place for asking questions, which is over there in the chat. Please do. We will try to get to them as best we can as we go throughout this process. I am going to give the first introduction to Christine, so she can give a little bit more background on herself and how she got into the fun world of retail, and then have Paco go after her, and then we'll Allie and I will ask questions, a barrage of really interesting questions. So Christine, take it away.
Yep. So my name's Christine Ward, and my husband and I actually started Patina back in 1993 out of a small 1,000 square foot space in one of our favorite neighborhoods, South Minneapolis, at the corner of 50th and Penn. And we really came to retail. I went to college at a small liberal arts school, Gustavus Adolphus, and had a studio arts major with a business minor. And I feel like I've really made that work. It really is for us. Patina has been sort of this amorphic art project, if you will, for both Rick and I. And we met in welding class at the U of M. We had both graduated from college. And I loved studio arts. I loved making things, creating things. So I wanted to learn how to weld, and apparently he did too. And anyhow, I actually had set myself on fire. It was fine, but that's how I got a first date. So anyhow, that's what I say, how we met, and then the rest is history. So we've now have 8 locations. Again, it's been over 25 years. So it's been very slow, methodical growth, but we've just established ourselves in what we consider to be neighborhoods, and really are there for the community that we exist in, whether it's Highland Park in St. Paul or Golden Valley, and then have fortunately become a destination retailer. I consider ourselves a lifestyle store just because it really has morphed over the years, and the products that we carry have changed over the years too, to just sort of meet the needs of our customer, very service oriented, but it's ever changing. And we're at the point now with 8 locations where we're able to do a lot of product development and have products that we make, recreate, and just are available at our stores alone. And yeah, so we had a web presence back in early 2000s and left that behind, closed that, and now have reemerged with a new website given the pandemic recently. So ever evolving, I would say, retail, and it definitely keeps you on your toes, which I love personally, the challenge, but it is ever changing and keeps quickly changing as the years have gone by. So it's exciting.
That's great. And that, by the way, has to be the best first date story ever. Certainly the best first date story ever presented on Thinking Link, that's for sure. That was really good. Caught yourself on fire. Paco?
God, I wish I had some story to top that, but I don't, okay? I'd like to introduce myself often as just as a refugee from the world of academia, that 40 years ago, I was a poor part-time adjunct instructor in a doctoral program in environmental psychology. My specialty back then was in commercial zoning issues, and I spent a lot of time on the roofs of buildings watching how people moved on streets. And I had my moment of epiphany on the roof of the Seafirst Bank building in Seattle. 60 stories up, there was a stiff wind blowing. I was at the edge of the roof installing the time-lapse cameras to record the traffic patterns on the streets below, and I could feel the building rocking in the breeze. As you probably can't tell, I'm quite tall, but I make the joke that I get height sick with 2 pairs of socks on. And up there on the roof of that building, I decided I needed to reinvent my profession. A week later, I was standing in a bank in New York City and realized that I could take the same tools that I'd been using to look at how a city worked, and I could move inside a bank or a store or an airport or a museum and start to deconstruct how they worked. And I'd never have to go to the roof of a building again. So I found my niche in the world completely by accident. I backed into it. And if you had asked me, 30 years ago, whether 30 years later, I'd be seen as an expert on fast food drive-thrus or how you sell lipstick or have worked in 47 countries across the world, I would have asked you what insane asylum you escaped from. That said, as we get to this dialogue, I have 2 both light and dark thoughts. First is that we understand that retail historically, particularly here in the US, is about birth, life, death, and compost. Okay? That the beast of consumption that we are facing now is intact. We still eat, we still drink, we still love our children. We need to go visit a Patina store for gifts for our loved ones. What we're looking at is that the face of consumption is changing, and that retail historically has been the dipstick of social change. That what made a good store in 2000 and what makes a good store in 2020 is different. And in a post-pan world, many of those changes are accelerating or have morphed. I also want to point out that if you think of the Chinese radical for chaos, the symbol in the Chinese language for chaos, it is a combination of 2 other symbols. One is the symbol for danger, and the other is the symbol for opportunity. And here within the structure of this conversation, Aaron, Allie, the rest of you, thank you. Part of what we're seeing is trying to understand what the nature of that opportunity is. Because coming out of this, there is still going to be appetite. The question is how do we go from historically being 20th century marketing leaders to 21st century followers of social change.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I knew this was going to be good. Allie, do you want to start us off with the first question?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. I feel like a party crasher, but this is a party I'm really glad to be part of. I love to talk shop, especially with gurus like Paco and Christine. Let's talk for a minute about malls. And just because, I mean, Paco, I know you wrote the book on it, but such a visible, symbol of what's going on right now, to see malls across the country and across the world, shut down. Malls already were struggling. Now as they come back online, what does a pandemic do to accelerate the destruction of the mall? Who survives? How does this play out in your estimation?
Allie, I mean, first of all, let's just be absolutely correct here. It is malls in the US that are deeply challenged. That most of those malls are 30 plus years old, and they're still working, many of them, on a 1980s model. And all across the rest of the world, people have come, they've looked, they've processed, and they've gone back to Mexico, Brazil, Shanghai, Seoul, Dubai, and rethought what the mall is. And for the most part, where malls are succeeding is where they've stopped being malls and they started being alls, meaning that they are true exercises in modern urban planning, that they're places where you can shop, certainly, but also you can live, you can work, and you can recreate. I think of all of those people in the Twin Cities areas, the baby boomers, who at this point are thinking about retirement. And having spent a certain amount of time locked down and gotten reacquainted with their families, do they really want to move to Sarasota or to Scottsdale and be separated from their friends and their families? Or might they like to be in a place where they could shop at a Cub Foods in their bedroom slippers, okay? Or they could make sure that they got to a drugstore, but they never had to shovel snow. And that they might go to a all here that had churches, had daycare centers, had other things on it that made it possible for them to be able to live, and that they could stay in their own community. Now, I'm not sure that's the solution for everyone, but the challenge that the shopping mall industry has here in the US is that their greatest asset is the crumbling parking lots that surround them. The problem is, if I'm 555 or I'm Simon Property or I'm Brookfield Place here, it is that the transformation of a mall to an all is something that is at least 2.5 years. And with shopping mall companies that are used to reporting to Wall Street what their quarterly results are, being able to spend money and take that 2.5 year period to be able to get to that better solution is going to be a real challenge. And certainly I look at A, B, and C malls across the nation here and recognize that a number of them are destined to the dust heap of history. And some of them may be reinvented as alls. I have a favorite, in terms of a reinvention. Le Grand Plaza in Fort Worth that redid itself as a mall focused on a Hispanic market. And I talked to the owners of the mall last week, and 80% of their rent structure is intact. I wonder if 555 could say the same thing about Mall of America.
Ouch. Yeah, good point. Interesting. Christine, you've just reopened um, as we are seeing the exit, hopefully the exit from the pandemic, and stores have come back online or you've opened up. What are you seeing? What are the behaviors you're noticing? How has this changed the experience for shoppers? What are you
Yeah.
observing?
Yeah, so it's been still only week one, or wait, yes, one week we've been open since the 18th. So yes, we've had a full week. And again, it feels really good to be open. I think, there was a lot of trepidation on the side of our employees as well as, customers. We're all feeling, a little anxious as to what that was going to look like. And again, it's been, slow, but somewhat steady traffic. People are coming in, and our staff is feeling, again, very more comfortable with that notion. And again, the safety measures that are in place. And, customers have been a variety of some people needing something, looking for a birthday gift or some acknowledgement of its graduation season. So a lot of grad gifts, that type of thing. And other people have just been like, oh, I'm just so excited to be here. I don't have anything specifically I need, but I just am excited to be in an environment, a different environment, experiencing something outside of maybe their four walls at home, and interacting. Our concept is very much reliant on customer service and, having that interaction. And again, everyone comes to the store with different needs. Some people want help and other people want to just be by themselves, and you can kind of gauge that pretty quickly. What level of sort of interaction everyone wants, but it's felt very good to be open. And like I said, no crazy lines to get in the door. Obviously we have occupancy numbers we want to adhere to, 50%, but that hasn't been necessarily, it's something that we've had to limit. Our spaces are big enough square footage that, the people that are out have been able to shop comfortably. And our staff feels good about that as well. So it really is understanding both sides of the equation and balancing it. But so far it's given us some optimism, because I think, like any other small business out there right now, or big business even, we don't know exactly what this curve is going to look like post opening, and how quickly things are going to come back or how slow. And, we're preparing for a slow comeback. This is going to take a number of months, if not a year, perhaps longer, to return back to what it was. And it may never exactly return to the type of sales. So we're just trying to prepare for that now that we have that opportunity to, make better buying decisions, and manage expenses appropriately now. So, it's still a lot to be determined, but it definitely is hopeful for us. So, which is a relief to say, because I didn't feel that way maybe a week or two ago.
Christine, so much of the experience of, well, I literally just said it, experience. So much of going to Patina is about the experience. It's discovery. It's finding things you didn't know you need and suddenly you do. And that is so much of what shopping in the real world is. For both of you, Paco and Christine, how are you thinking about experience right now? And how much do you think retailers should be rethinking what experience means beyond the four walls of a store?
Oh, okay.
Well, Christine, do you want to start?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it's incredibly important. And I think, we started to understand that years ago, in terms of just what motivated people to come into our store, and sort of created this whole merchandising team that we had, maybe a few employees working on that, but now each location has a team and a committed payroll that works strictly on merchandising the product. So we want to, again, have a different experience, whether someone comes into a store one day and then a week or two later comes back in for the repeat customer. That's critically important to us, that we evolve week by week, day by day, in terms of what they're going to discover. And it's been something that we've definitely invested a lot of resources in terms of training and the way we go about it, to encourage that different, unique experience each time. Again, having web presence, again, has helped in terms of, again, people who aren't ready to come back and experience the store firsthand can do it, in the comfort of their home or on their cell phone. And now that we are open, we're finding maybe people shopping online, but then coming in to pick up their order. Again, they don't have to, we can bring it to their curb, but then coming into the store, or previewing it online and then knowing what they are looking for, but then coming into the store to experience that too. So it's just opening up different channels to hopefully appeal to a variety of different levels of comfort that exist right now in the retail world. So it's definitely has been important and will continue to be for us to remain relevant.
Paco, do you have thoughts on experience? Kind of how you think about experience?
I'm going to answer that question a little differently. Okay, so part of what we know, Allie, is in the course of the past 2 months in our lockdown, for almost all Americans, our digital literacy has been challenged. That we have been forced to understand whether it's Zoom or other, how do I order, how do I figure out stuff. But let's recognize that contribution to our digital literacy works two ways. It works both for us as the consumer, and it works also for you as the merchant. So if I were Christine, okay, part of what I'd be thinking about is there a way to liberate me from the truck bay in the back or the storeroom in the back and give me the opportunity, rather than to wait for customers to come to me, for me to go to them. So Christine invents a tractor trailer truck or a version of the food truck, okay? She can take it to the parking lot of the Twins game, okay? She opens it up, and as people go back and forth to whatever it is, whether it's a concert, a golf tournament, something where she knows where her key customer is, and they can come in and look at the product and experience it, but the fulfillment happens online. Same thing is true if Christine decides, and she has the store is a religion by her curatorial skill. But what if she took that store into the Minneapolis airport? Again, where she did not have to
We're losing you, Paco. We're dealing with Wi-Fi issues, or at least it seems to be on your front.
Challenges to our digital.
Wrap it up for you to take with you when you bought it, but the fulfillment came online. In the context of is going, how do I?
Oh, we lost him.
Shoot. I was taking notes too.
Lost
notes. What do I need to do, Paco?
I was right there. This is a very important point right now. You need to know this. And he's gone. He'll be back, I'm sure, in a moment.
Maybe it's a good time to ask. I mean, one of the things, Christine, you and I have talked about, and that I started thinking about right away as digital has become essential, that was for a while the only way you had to stay in touch with your customers to sell. You as a company, Patina, based in experience, based in neighborhoods, made the decision a few years ago to actually pull the plug on your website, to take your business offline. Fast forward to 2020, COVID-19, you had to rethink that. What are your thoughts on that, and on a, kind of the neighborhood store being online?
Yeah, so we were in e-commerce for almost 10 years back in the early 2000s, and had some success. Again, I think our brick and mortar just tend to be more successful because it's a whole different algorithm of how you fulfill orders, and so anyways, so we had decided to, when there was an opportunity to expand the brick and mortar, put our resources there, and decided to exit e-commerce. We were, however, talking in the end of 2019 about entering it again. The difference being, what we found is, from closing the website back in 2010, 2011, so the difference in those 9 years was that we had really started producing a lot of our own product, things that were exclusive to us that you could only get at our stores. And we felt like that would be maybe a differentiation between what is out there in the market. And, it all kind of comes down to, price point and Amazon and competing with margins, and people expect to get goods within a day, or maybe a drone delivers it. So we knew we couldn't compete by offering the same products that were perhaps out there in other retailers online. So what could make our website, our store, different online, offering exclusives to just Patina. And again, that's a variety of jewelry, home accessories, home goods, paper goods, note cards, everything. So we have probably, I would say, 20-25% of our product mix, maybe even a little bit more, is designed exclusively for us, both domestically and internationally. And that's really been the bread and butter of what we've offered online. And then what we've done also to kind of differentiate ourselves is try to come up with these gift bundles, if you will. So we know it's graduation, we know Father's Day is coming, we know people are just reaching out to friends right now in need, with just like thinking of you. So we've put together some custom packages, maybe at a little more aggressive price point, to make sure they're appealing, that group a few products together and come in a cute gift bag. It's ready for presentation. It's super easy and well priced, to, again, make it easy for someone who doesn't want to spend. I think the issue I find as a consumer, even online, is you can go down the rabbit hole. If you don't know what you're looking for necessarily, you can spend hours, and it can feel a little empty, online shopping. So just how we can quickly get the consumer to hopefully what it is they're looking for, or fill in need, as quickly as possible. And that's, again, what we're trying to do with our online presence. Because the store experience, maybe, again, oftentimes you want to spend time. There's the consumer that wants to get in and get out. And then there's the consumer that maybe wants to sort of get lost in the experience. And I think online, you have a need, you want to fulfill it, and get that done and move on with your day. So really trying to get it there quickly and effectively. So
I love that, especially the perspective, and also to your previous answer around the fact that the explore buy versus the task buy. And the task buy is kind of what we've been in through this pandemic, right? Grocery stores, you go in, you get what you need, buy as much toilet paper as you can, all those types of things. But the fact that, I mean, when you open up an explore purchase, right? You open up the ability to go in and wander around and find something, discover, which is a different kind of experience, dramatically different kind of experience, and one we really haven't been able to do. That's been shut off from us. So the fact that's coming back online, and it sounds like it's coming back in a way that's not militant, right? It's not, I've heard stories of places you go where it really doesn't feel like an explore. It feels like you can only go here, but don't touch this and don't go there, and don't go near that person, and it's kind of wrapped in fear, which is not exactly a thing to explore. Yeah, it's good to hear that's possible and it's coming back. It's a real positive thing. The other good news I have is that Paco is back. He's he's here. He's not on the first screen, but he's on the second or third. Hopefully he'll still be able to participate and continue with his wonderful advice that we were all on the edge of our seats for, and then you disappeared. About going.
Am I back?
Yes, you're back. Yes, and if you start to break up, or if you notice that with anything else, you can just turn off your video and the sound should be able to get through.
I'd like to do a little coaching for Christine.
I love
in the post-man world. Okay. Part of what we know is that a gifting store is often about something that says something to somebody in a thing that I often am uncomfortable or inarticulate about saying to their face. It could be, I love you, I respect you, congratulations, I am proud of you. One of the things on the other side of this is that Christine needs to start thinking about the curatorial skills that she has, and to also recognize that one of the driving factors of modern consumption is saving time. And that there's going to be a consumer that comes in where Christine has a wall where she has 12 things on the wall, a $10 item, a $20 item, a $30 item, a $40 item. She has some good visual merchandising to explain what it is, and it's all pre-wrapped and ready to go. So that if somebody wants to come in and be able to go, oh, I trust Christine. She's always, everybody's loved, I love this, but I can get in and out really quickly. I think that's one thing that she's going to be able to do. The second thing that for in our post-pan world is to recognize that our visual language is evolving faster than our spoken or written word. And that for both her and other merchants, figuring out how to communicate something in emojis or other things, both in the context of the store and in the context of online. The other thing that she has to be very careful about, and this is again in our post-pan world, is what is in every store in her chain and what is localized to a specific market. And the degree to which she recognizes that one of the best places to teach somebody to shop you online is in-store. Not just the other way around, but that in-store you go, you can shop us online. That is one way of being able to help do it. The other is to start training people that they can come into a store and using Snapchat, FaceTime, they can shop with their friends inside the store via their phone and generate consensus on whatever that purchase is. This is a powerful tool, particularly for the local merchant to get local. And it isn't just about selling or fulfilling, it's about creating community. And the degree to which that Christine can create that Patina community that recognized that she is a solution to the communication problems that Minnesotans have given their Lutheran heritage, about being able to tell people, boy, do I love you, or boy, do I like you, or boy, am I proud of you. But here I'm doing it with a icon as opposed to a word.
Yep. Well, Paco, taking good notes, and we are hitting some of those. And yes, I would say most of our greeting cards have phrases already in them. There are blank options for those people that do have their own sentiment. I have to say the ones with one sell 10 to 1, maybe 20 to 1. And again, as I was saying when you were lost for a minute, was, yeah, the gift bundles. I think that's exactly what we're doing right now with hitting price points and making it, again, visually appealing and priced competitive and easy and quick for those customers, exactly, that want to get in and out for sure. And agree, since we've had web presence, I mean, back in early 2000s, the mobile, the ability to shop on your phone was just starting, I think, to happen. And I think our website wasn't maybe even formatted for a mobile phone. So again, that's completely, different now. So definitely a game changer being back for literally 3 weeks on the web. So yeah, it's definitely different times, but a ton of capability for sure that we're just starting to understand.
Cool. One of the places, when you can travel again, have you ever gone to Tokyo?
I have not. It's on my list of places.
Part of what is really interesting is that the Japanese understand gifting
Yes.
in a way that almost no other retail community across the planet.
Yeah.
And I have loved going there, and whether it's Mickey House, Miki House,
Mm-hmm.
or going to other to parts of Tokyo and just looking and watching, because the visual merchandising cues
Yeah.
that you could bring back to your own business would be really fun for you.
I remember we go to New York obviously quite often, but I remember back in the mid 90s, there was a store, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was Japanese based store, very expensive, exclusive. And I remember just wanting to go in there, obviously for the environment, but then you had to buy something because the way they presented the packaging was breathtaking, whether it was, a $10 bar of soap or something, more expensive, but you just had to buy something to see the presentation. It's definitely, they're no longer around, but it was stunning. So I can imagine.
It was Takashimaya on
That's
Fifth
it.
Avenue.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah. We have a Tokyo office, and I've spent many years in working on the board of Hakuhodo, one of the Japanese advertising agencies, and it's been a fantastic education for me.
I love that our chat room, we have such an intellectual audience that people are identifying that at the same time as you are, Paco, in the chat. Allie, you had a question. I could tell you were just about to ask.
Oh, I have many. I think we should get to a couple in the chat too, because there are some really good ones. But let me ask this, Christine. You talked about how producing your own merchandise has become such a differentiator and such an important, survival mechanism for a small retailer. I'm curious how the pandemic might change that. What happens to the amount of merchandise you're creating and ordering for fall and going forward? I mean, I know that's a big question in the fashion industry and, across retail. So how are you thinking about it right now?
Yeah, and it will be interesting. We do still have a lot of product in production that we will continue to get in. I think looking at our supply chain, it's going to impact the supply chain to what degree. The nice thing is we have uh, local, domestic, international. So we're just sort of waiting to see how they all recover themselves. But we're definitely committed to it because it has been very successful for us. And like I said, I think the suppliers have understood that they need to offer that as well to retailers like us. So I think they're trying to meet the needs as well by maybe lowering minimums and, taking product that they already have and maybe twisting it slightly to your designs and becoming more adept at that. So that's made it definitely easier for us so that we don't have to start from scratch with each and every product that we want to have developed. But it's definitely going to continue to be maybe even more important as we navigate these, because a lot of vendors, that produce product are probably not going to be able to survive this as well. So it's going to go across the board. It's yet to be determined for a lot of them.
Yes. Paco, the thing that's, I think, going to be on your gravestone, and the only reason I bring that up is you brought it up in a speech. I think I first met you. That term, the butt brush, came up already by Spencer, and if it would be good for you to explain that, because part of what I absolutely loved about reading your book was, well, the idea that Jane Goodall did not interview the gorillas. You observed them shopping, and you observed what they did. And one of the things you observed was the butt brush. And Spencer's point was, now that we've got to have 6 feet of distance, is that concept relevant anymore? Are the stores going to become bigger? What's going to happen?
Well,
explain the butt brush first, though.
Let me just point to what the origins of that concept were. I was very happy that in the early 1980s, I was adopted as a researcher by the Federated Building Executives Committee. And the 2 heads of store planning, one for Filene's in Boston and the other for Bloomingdale's in New York, basically said, Paco, you can come into our stores and do anything that you want to do in terms of trying to refine your ways of collecting information. And I can remember setting up a camera on a tie rack at the entrance to Bloomingdale's. And as I looked at the footage, I realized that the browsing time for ties was, let's say, 97 seconds. And that the more likely someone was, as they stood in the aisle of the entrance, to be brushed from the rear, the less likely they were to convert from a browser to a buyer. And that if you created a little catchment basin behind which somebody could hide at that aisle and shop ties, that the conversion rate for tie shoppers changed dramatically. We have taken that fundamental measure and applied it everywhere. From cosmetic counters to what do I put where, how long does it take me to be able to look at something and decide that I want to buy it, and how does that relate to traffic? And that means, first of all, yelling at the store design community that having straight aisles often isn't such a great idea, that having something that has some form of shape to it that creates, just as a good fisherman knows in a trout stream about where to find the little places where trout is likely to be hiding out of the traffic flow. That said, I think one of the things, Aaron, that the store design community is looking at is that some of the fundamental concepts that have driven store design throughout history are challenged now. First of all is adjacencies. And the fact that if I look at a typical supermarket, I have parts of the store where virtually 100% of the people walking in the door go to produce. But if I'm in a grocery store and 100% go to produce and less than 10% walk down the carbonated beverage aisle, is there a way for me to redesign the store to be able to even out the traffic across it? And we have watched as Walmart or even the local little grocery store that I visit here in New York City is starting to have one-way aisles. We are asking the question, and this is something I actually have a webinar coming up on Friday, which is, given the traffic in the aisle and given the emotional involvement and the browsing coefficient, what is the relationship between being on the end cap, being at the beginning of the aisle, and being at the end of the aisle in terms of what people need to do? And the category that we were working on here is OTC drug, because OTC drug is something where the purchase cycle for it can often be 8 weeks or longer, meaning that somebody has to go in the aisle and look to make sure that they're getting exactly what they're getting, both on price point and a certain degree of fear that they may not get the right thing. So I think that combination of art and science as it relates to retail is something that's very much in transition. And I certainly know that there are colleagues on this call, my friend Judy Bell, who and others here who are, this is something that all of us are working on. And clearly, one of the aspects to this is store design is going to have to recognize what that social distancing is. Mm-hmm. And that in the context of that social distancing, you are creating opportunities. As I walk past my local Costco or even my local butcher, and there are people standing out waiting to be admitted to the store. What does that do, Aaron, in terms of flat screen opportunities? Do we recognize in the context of retail every point, every physical point at which somebody is waiting and their eyeballs are desperate for something to look at? And whether that desperation is advertising or whether it's education or whether it's amusement here, that is the place marking exercise that 21st century advertising and marketing is going to have to embrace.
Yeah, go ahead, Christine.
I was just going to jump back real quickly because again, Paco's making so many great points here. But just to answer Allie's question too about exclusives and just tying it back to, again, we don't know necessarily where all the opportunities are going to be with the new shopper post-pandemic. Again, we can see shopping patterns maybe changing, needs changing, but that's again when you are able to product develop, when you're able to develop products that meet customer needs, that's again where you go, you look for the opportunities, because there already are emerging opportunities for how we can provide product to customers. It just may be a little different post-pandemic. Again, whether it's designing face masks, whether it's designing hand sanitizer, what they may be in the next 3 to 6 months. And that's, again, as a good retailer or striving to be one, you are always trying to look for where the opportunity is in the market that someone has not necessarily created or fulfilled exactly for your market, exactly for the customer base we have here in the Twin Cities. And there are opportunities. Once you get through sort of the scary stuff that we've, are getting through. It's just letting that dust settle to see where the opportunities are going to be and be able to go after and create and provide that for customers, because there still is going to be a need. It's just maybe changing slightly. So we're hopeful.
Obviously, we're not going to do breakout groups because we've gone beyond that because this is too good. And Allie, do you have another question?
Well, actually, I want to bring up Spencer's question. There's a lot of good conversation happening in the chat. So Spencer asks, what role will measurement and analytics on shopping behaviors online and in-store have on experience and assortment in retail? Is it time to look at those insights across channels and not just vertically by channel? Curious to get your thoughts, Paco and Christine.
Okay. Well, first of all, collecting data in 2020 is really easy. Figuring out what you do with it is really what the challenge is. And one of the key aspects that we are working on with a number of AI companies here is trying to combine big and small data and recognize that we need to use both sides of the toolbox to make it happen. And then the flippant answer to that question is that through the 20th century, most of us in the broader world of both marketing and in retail fought polite wars. It was Gimbels against Bloomingdale's. It was Unilever against Procter & Gamble. In the 21st century, we are in a bar fight. We're in a bar fight where everybody is competing with everybody else. Okay, and Christine is competing with Kohl's and Cub Foods and
Amazon, Target,
everybody else, and the degree to which we recognize what that bar fight landscape is a really important part. And that one of the things that's really important for us is to shorten the distance between ourselves and our customers. And I believe fervently that we need to go out in the world in our rubber-soled shoes and be able to look at stuff and, shop Amazon, shop Walmart, shop Target, and see what they're doing, see whatever, and use it as a way of making our own inspirations happen.
Absolutely. And again, it's been eye-opening to be back in e-commerce, because it is the data that one can collect as compared to 10 years ago it's stunning. Obviously, we just haven't had the time to really analyze, but it's a lot of information, and being able to sort of discern where to navigate and how to quickly navigate. But we've always trusted our gut, if you will, and spend a lot of time, while I maybe didn't stand on the top of a roof, just observing traffic patterns at all the locations, customer behavior when they're in the store, how much time do they spend in front of a display. There's information analytics you can get from a lot of different resources right now. So it's just, having the time to spend to analyze. Go ahead, Paco.
Okay, I wanted to add something here. In the wonderful world of online, almost all of the analytics are based on clickstream, meaning what are people clicking on? And it reminds me of the world of retail, where so much of analytics were based on sales.
Right.
And one of the things that we recognize, both in retail and online, is that understanding where you're winning is really important.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to get to the opportunities, it is understanding where you're losing, where you make the easy fixes.
Yeah.
I run a research and consulting firm called in ViraCell. And we have a very cool tool called a Webalong, where we recruit people to load our software onto their laptops and phones. And it lets us watch and talk to them as they shop online. And what this does is we can direct them to go to a site and look at what they don't do and have them explain what the roadblock is. And in our intersection in that art and science of web design, it is really cool because we can go back to a web design team and go, maybe that's the wrong picture. People aren't understanding that language. And you can make the correction and you can discover whether you're right or wrong literally within 24 hours. Mm-hmm. And we have gone as a company from being very much focused on retail to, if you think of the 5 largest technology companies in the world, I think we worked for 4 of them in just the past year. And that is recognizing, again, that mix of big data and small data as a way to get to winning victories. And I think this is a very important question, Allie, which is that we need to win victories, and winning victories is getting close to the customer and understanding why they're doing what they're doing or not doing.
Yeah, I would follow up with, yes, that's absolutely. We've, again, like victories more than not, mistakes, if you will, but you have to have the mistakes in order to continue to evolve. So again, if we're not seeing that and learning from that, again, as a retailer, you try not to make the same mistake multiple times. But if you can't, I think, push it, it's like going to Las Vegas and gambling a little bit. So, you have to, in order to have the successes, be willing to gamble oftentimes, whether it's on a particular product or a group of products. And again, what this has taught us is that it's never going to be perfect. Buying is never perfect. You're never going to sell down to the one item. You're going to have things that sell out. You're going to have things that don't sell. And there's information you can glean from really all of that. So to be a good buyer, to be a good retailer, you have to have a degree of mistakes that you can glean from, learn from, and then configure, slightly twist to adapt and hopefully not create again. Absolutely. Goes without saying. It's the territory.
Good for you, Christine. I thought that was the best monologue that you've given in the past hour. That, part of us is, having been a testing agency for prototype stores, I often have to yell at the client and go, if this prototype works 100%, it's a bad prototype because you haven't stretched the envelope, right? That we in retail have to be modest enough and courageous enough to be able to reach for it and succeed, and then recognize that our failures are just as important as our successes. We just have to catch them and correct them.